Yes, give thanks to the coming in. Jah Rastafari. I am Lord Sage, Sage of the Seven Path, Lord of the Perfect Black. I am here once more to give thanks. Yes, so we are here to discuss the creation of mankind, right? And my thing is, the creation of mankind is really engineering taking place in the garden, where we have the black Africans, which are the original beings of the planet, of Earth, and they are creating beings which we call mankind, because it's a kind of man. He was bred from the original man, but he is not the original man. So that's why we have man, mankind, and human beings. It's three different aspects to what's going on. The earth, you understand? So we have the original beings which came with the planet. We also have the original animals which came with the planet. The original plants, life that came with the planet, right? And all these three aspects I just mentioned, all these aspects was taken to create new life, right? That's why we have engineered foods, engineered plants, right? We have engineered animals, hybrid animals, right? And we have engineered beings, engineered human beings, mankind, right? Three different aspects. It's very simple to understand, right? And I'm going to prove this, right? And we're going to start by visiting the book of Genesis, which is really the gene of Isis, the black woman, right? Because the way it goes with human and animal engineering, it has to do with the genetics, right? It has to do with the genetics. So the original being, which is black man and woman, took the genetics, spliced it with the original animals, right? And created harmony, right? And I'm going to prove all this, right? So we're going to start with Genesis, and we're going to go through a list of videos, right? And we're going to pick up clues and ideas, expression throughout these videos. And when we're done watching these videos and going through the scripture that I pulled up, right? We're going to be left with a picture, and this picture is going to describe to us the truth about what is really going on, right? So we're going to start with Genesis chapter 2, verse 5, right? We're going to start from verse 5, right? So give them life. Jah Rastafari. Alright, continuing reading, right? In the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 5, right? Chapter 2, verse 5, Gene Isis, right? Gene Isis, gene splicing, right? The gene of Isis, right? The creation of mankind, the gene of Isis, the hidden. You see there, you see, it's all there, the gene of Isis, the gene of the black woman, right? Splice, creation of mankind. So that's what we're getting into, right? So, verse 5, continuing reading, right? And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew, right? For the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. Right? Let's continue, verse 6. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. Verse 7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils right? The breath of life, and man became a living soul, right? So I'm going to start dissecting these scriptures from verse 7. Keep in mind, I skipped verse 5 and 6. I'm going to start dissecting at verse 7, right? And the Lord formed man out of the dust of the ground. The dust of the ground represents the DNA of the ground, right? The genetics. What is the most primary source of life on earth? So the dust of the ground, right? The ground represents earth, right? The ground represents earth, the dust, the genetics. So what is the primary genetics, right? When it comes to the earth, which is the original being, which is we have the black man and we have the black woman. They are the full representation of the DNA of all the genetics of the earth. We represent the full spectrum of light when it comes to a living soul, when it comes to organism, when it comes to what we call God, or when it comes to what it calls the Creator. Because we represent nature, right? Nature is God, right? Nature only brings life, right? Nature is infinite, right? No beginning, no end. It's the same thing with the black man. The black man, there is no beginning, no end. So the God, the Lord God, right, is the original being that came with the earth. So they are the ones that's creating these beings, right? So let's go down. So as we begin to go down, this will begin to become clearer, right? What I'm saying, because I know plenty of people don't get it, right? But as I go along, it will begin to be clearer, right? And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Right? And the Lord God, right? The Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden. So what's funny about this verse right here? The Lord God planted a garden. So you see the Lord God is planting a garden. He's the one planting in the garden. The Lord God is planting in the garden, literally. You understand? So we see where this begins to make sense. Where I said the Lord God is the original being on the earth, because they are the original beings on the earth, are the ones setting up the garden, the Lord God. Right? He's the one planting garden eastward in Eden. Right? Let's continue. And there he put the man whom he had formed. And there he put the man whom he had formed. So you see, he set up the garden, he planted in the garden, and he put the man there whom he had formed. Right? Whom he had formed. Right? Out of the dust of the ground. Right? Which represents the genetics of the earth. And what is the full representative of the earth? Who is the salt of the earth? It's the original beings on the earth. The black man and the black woman are the original. So here we go. During Isis, the original beings. Right? Genetics, genetics, right? Isis, the original black woman took genetics and spliced it with the original animals and created mankind. This is my whole thing, right? So this is what I'm proving. So let's continue. So the Lord God formed man out of the dust of the ground and breathed into his breath, into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Lord God planted the garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. So the Lord God is planting gardens now, right? So you could see, remember I said, look for the expressions, right? The essence of what he's saying. So the essence of this, the expression of this, is somebody, right, is planting the garden eastward in Eden for the man he have newly formed. Literally. Right? So it's nothing spooky, nothing mysterious to say things is just happening magically. Right? continues, verse 9. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge and good and evil. So what's mysterious about the 9th verse, right? And it says again, right? And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree. Right? To grow every tree. He didn't say he magically just grew it, or the essence is showing that he literally grew the tree. Right? Out of the ground made the Lord God, to grow every tree. Right? That is pleasant to sight and good for food. Right? So this expression gives, right? Because if the food looks like it's good for food, that means there is original food. So what I'm saying, this verse is showing that they are taking the original plants, right? And they're engineering new plants that seems like it's good for food. It's pleasant to the sight and it's good for food. So if it's good for food, right, that means food existed already. So the plant that the food that they're newly creating, it seems like it's good for food. That's the expression of this verse right here. So we see the engineering of the plants taking place right here. Right? And it goes to talk about the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So we see the aspect of good and evil is displayed as a tree also. Right? In the garden, midst of the garden. And we're going to describe what this is as we go down. Right? So all from verse 5 coming down to verse 9 where we're at right now, we are clearly seeing the expression of a being creating a man, right? So far it's just a man and the plant, right? You can clearly see the expression that somebody came, took a piece of land, right? Grew some herbs and trees and food on the land, right? To prepare the land for the newly created creation that he's creating, which would be a man in the story as we're reading right now. Now keep in mind, the Adam and Eve story, I don't take this literally, but the essence and the message, I take it literally. It's a reality. The message that they are sending out through through this unrealistic story that they're giving, the message and the essence is real. It's true. You see, so don't get confused with the literal story that you're reading. It's not the literal story that is to be taken literally. You have to take the essence and the message literally. That's what you have to take literally. The essence and the message, right? The story has to show and has to give, right? Because this is how reality is being transported through life, through generation to generation to generation. Is being transported by folklore, story making, right? Horus and Set, the story of Horus and Set and Osiris and Isis, all these stories, we don't take it literally, right? But the message that it carries, we take literally and implied in our lives. You understand? So that's what's going on there. So don't think I'm taking this literally, right? I'm just trying to express to you the expressions, right? And the messages that we're getting in these scriptures when we're reading these scriptures, right? And we are applying it to life, right? Because life is our greatest how you didn't say that again? Evidence, Life is our greatest evidence. That's where we get all our aspects from, to prove things to be, in reality. When you could prove things in life, then you could say, yes, it's the reality. You understand? So let's move on, right? We don't want to be too long-winded. We have, but let me just say, this video will be a long ass video, right? It will be a long video. So if you're not prepared, if you don't have patience, right? You're not gonna get through it, right? So we gotta take our time and go through it step by step, so we get a good understanding, good comprehension of what's taking place in the Bible. Right now, Genesis is not only is not the only place. Genesis chapter 2 is not the only place where we can find human engineering taking place in the Bible. I'm going to mention them also. I'm not going to go through it literally, but I'm just going to mention it. But we're going to go through Genesis chapter 2 literally, like we see, like we're doing right now. So let's go. Right? Let's move on. Right? We got verse 10, right? And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it parted and became into four heads. So now they're trying to describe the river that is on that land, right? In that particular area, right? They're trying to describe the river on parts of that area where the trees were grown for the man that was created. So there is a river went out of Eden to water the garden, right? They're describing it. And from there it was parted and became into four heads, right? And they go to say that the man, the name of the first is Pison, right? That is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, right? Where there is gold. So they're describing, they're showing there is gold, right? Because when you learn, when you look at the earth in the aspect of man, like our ancestors depicted Newton Geb, right? You learn that when a man is dead, his blood actually falls down to his lower body. And we know within the body, within the blood, there's all the minerals, gold and all the crystals and everything, right? So if you look at that same aspect, if you look at the earth in that same aspect, you will know exactly where to find gold and all the minerals that you're looking for. You know? So let's move on, right? And the gold of that land is good. There is delilium there and onyx stone. Now I didn't pronounce the B because it's just silly. They're putting letters where you cannot pronounce it. Where they leave it silent. They say silent letters. Right? So if it's silent, you don't pronounce it, why are you putting it there? You understand? You just see, just crackers again, you know, crackers. You know, there's better ways to do things. But we just accept what the crackers give us and we just accept it. We don't even look into it and see if there's a better way to do it. Right? So the crackers just put a silent B in front of this word right here. To do what? To say what? Right? So let's move on, right? So they're describing the gold and the onyx stone and the delilium, right? In the area, like I said, you know, all these metals and crystallized and crystallization and all these minerals within our blood, right? If you look at the earth as Geb, right? You will have a good idea where gold would be. Let's continue, right? We had verse 13. And the name of the second river is Gihon, right? The same is it that compasses the whole land of Ethiopia. So we have here naming it a region, certain region with Ethiopia. So describing, right? They're describing the garden, right? So we see it's all in Africa, right? Ethiopia, right? This garden. So this would point to us where the origin of mankind begins, right? Where the science was taking place. So this will show us where the science was taking place. So literally the Bible is indicating to us where the science took place, when mankind was created, when the black African man and woman engineered mankind into existence. we see the region Ethiopia, they talk about the river, they talk about finding gold there, and all different type of things, right? So we see the origin of all mankind is from Ethiopia, right? And we're going to learn how, you know, as we go down, everybody could be linked to Ethiopia. Everybody on the earth today, we're going to learn how they could be linked to Ethiopia as we go down, right? So let's move on. So keep in mind the expressions of the verses, right? As we move along, because we're not following the actual story that we're reading, but we are following the essence and the expressions, right? And the ideas, right? And the messages that these verses is pointing out to us, but not the literal story. Always keep that in mind, right? Verse 14, right? And the name of the third river is Hiddekel, right? That is it which goeth towards the east of Syria, and the fourth river is Euphrates, right? So once again, they're still describing certain regions and the rivers that flow there. Remember the river parted, right? So they're describing these regions, basically, right? Within the origin point of all creation put into mankind, and the engineered animals that were engineered also, and the engineered plants also, like we just went through a while ago, right? So we're continuing, right? Verse 15, right? And the Lord God took the man, right? So the original Africans, they took the science project, which is the mankind, right? The Lord God took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and keep it, right? So this garden that the black Africans, the original beings, right, took the man that they created and put him in the garden and, you know, to dress it and keep it, right, the original being. And after we're done reading this scripture, we're going to go into who the original beings are, right? We're going to see who are the original beings, who are the first beings, right, of mankind. We're going to have a look at who is the first beings of mankind, right? So let's move on, right? We're down to verse 16, right? And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, right? So the Lord God find the land, planted trees, right? Put the man he had created into the garden, right? Tell him he's free to eat every tree in the garden, so he's not tilling, he's not doing anything, so everything has in place there for him already, right? Right, and we're going to see why is that? We're going to see why, you know, everything was placed there for him. We're going to come to the root of everything, right? So just have a little patience, right, as we move along. Give thanks. Let me repeat verse 16, right? And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. Verse 17. But out of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. Alright, we're going to explain this soon. And the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an help meet for him. So apparently the Lord God created a man. He found a piece of land, right? Grew trees, herbs and everything for the man, right? Placed him in the land, right? That flows with river, and there's gold there and everything, right? Everything there, right? And later down, as he goes along in all his creation, right? He starts to realize that the man is alone and he needs a meat, right? Whatever M-E-E-T means, right? crackers again. So the Lord God said it is not good that the man should not be alone, right? Should be alone, sorry. I will make him an helpmate for him, right? So apparently, like I said, keep in mind for the expressions. So the expression to us that, this is something that you're working on, right? And in the process of working on that thing, you realize, hey, that thing will need a helper because it's just there alone. You're now realizing this because you're now at the point that you're at in your creation. Right, so you now realizing. So it gives you the whole idea. It's not original stuff that is taking place there. It's something that you created by way of engineering, right? Not naturally, because if the man came naturally, right, it would not give the essence. We would not read it and give the impression. It would not give the impression that the man later down the line needed a mate, right? You will not get that the impression of the Lord God realizing that the man is alone and he needs a mate, right? So if it was the original man, everything would come naturally. Originally, we'd have his woman then with him naturally, would have the animals and everything around him naturally. He would not seem later down the line that he need a woman or he need animals around him. You understand? So this gives the whole impression that is a program, a scientific program taking place, right? And as you're in the process of your program, that you're realizing that this will need a helper, right? So this is the realization of, this is the essence of this text right here. 18, right? So let's move along, right? And out of the ground the Lord God, continue reading verse 19, and out of the ground, right? The ground represents the earth represents the fullness, which is black man and black woman, right? The Lord God formed every beast, right? Every beast. So this is where engineered animals are being created and being domesticated. Because every domesticated animal has human DNA. The human DNA, how should I say, actually it regresses the animal DNA within them, that all the aggression and all the animals think it calms them down, domesticate, that's the word I was looking for. This is how you domesticate animals. You put human DNA within them. Right, you put the black man gene within them, the melanin within them, and this calms them down, bring them more to understanding level of the human aspect, the man aspect, right? So out of the ground, which is the ground representing the earth is the black man and woman, which is the fullness of the earth, right? The Lord is the fullness of the earth. Remember that scripture, right? The Lord God is the fullness of the earth. So. And out of the ground represents, like I said, the earth is the fullness of the earth is man. So man took his DNA, right, and crossed it with the original animals, right, and created every beast of the field, and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. So you see, after the original beings engineered these animals, they brought them unto Adam, which he had newly created also, so Adam could name them. You see? So Adam could name them. Is the only way we get a realization of or essence of something being named after it's been created is when you're engineering something. And when you're done engineering and creating, you give it a name. Right? So if it was original, it wouldn't have to have seemed like Adam have to name them after they were created. Adam himself was just created also. So you could see all this human engineering program taking place in the Horn of Africa, in Africa, Ethiopia, right? Like it described. It specifically described Ethiopia, where the rivers parted, and there is gold there and all these type of things. They're describing the region where all this science is taking place. You know, there's no going around it. Africa is the birthplace of all civilization. The black African and the black man engineered mankind into existence. There's no going around it. You know, the Bible actually proves this. So let's move on, right? We have much ground to cover, so let's move on, right? You clearly see. Let me read it one more time, verse 19. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field. The ground represents the original people that came with the earth. So they took the DNA with the original animals on the earth and created beasts, he domesticated beasts. Every fowl of the air brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. So this newly being that was just created alongside with the animals that was just created, you know. So this is why the white man, when he creates his hybrid animals today, he is the one naming them. You could see the link, right? And whatsoever and call every living creature, that was the name thereof. So let's move on to verse 20, right? And Adam gave names to the cattle, to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him. So we see the first helpmeet that God gave Adam, the one that he created. You could see it was clearly the animal. Right? And then he saw that, you know, so even before you reach the point of getting Adam a female, right? He gave Adam the animal. So you clearly see, even in the mankind creation, the man is created first before the animal, in a sense, right? So this is for the evolutionists, you know, who say animals came before man. You know, it goes both ways actually, because in one case, in the other case, mankind, creation of mankind, the animals do come before the actual man being formed, right? Because we're going to learn when the black Africans take the genetics and splice it with an original animal that came with the earth, you're going to get what we call a hominid. And we're going to have a look at this, right? So let's continue. Let's continue proving that Genesis chapter 2 is all about human engineering, animal engineering, and plant engineering, right? So we're going to continue verse 21, right? Well, let's repeat verse 20. And Adam gave the names to all the cattle, right? And to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an help made for him. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. You know, when you had surgery, right? When the doctors are performing a surgery upon you, they're gonna gas you up and cause you to fall in a deep sleep, right? So this is the expression of this scripture right here. And the Lord God, which is the original being, caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man they had just created. So they are performing a surgery upon him. So let's prove this. Let's continue. And he slept, right? So when they gas you up, right, and you're going to fall into a deep sleep when you're going to sleep. So Adam slept. And he took one of his ribs, right? And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. Right? So they cut you up, they take out your DNA, which is primarily in your rib area, where the DNA is more potent or more secure, I believe. Right? This is why they mention the rib area, right? And close up the flesh instead thereof. So the Lord God is actually performing this literally when you're reading this story right here. So it gives off the impression that it's a surgery being done to take out the DNA, right? to later on splice, right, to create a woman. So as we go down, on the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, the genetics that taken from man made he a woman and brought her onto the man. Right? And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. So there we are, where we have the first man and the first woman come into existence. So we see when we reach to the creation of mankind, now that's where we get the aspect of the first man and the first woman, not the original beings, right? The original beings that came with the planet and the earth, right, have no beginning date. There's no origin point to these beings, which is the black man and the black woman. There's nobody that could prove when the black man and black woman came into existence. But when it comes to mankind now, they all have an origin point. You know, in history, we know the Europeans have an origin point, which is the caves. Likewise, the Chinese, likewise, the Indians. Right? You know, the origin point start in caves. So we see mankind have an origin point of when they were created. But the black African have no origin point of being created. The only example we have is coming through the womb of a woman. Right? So let's continue. So we clearly see in verse 22 that, you know, the genetics was taken, you know, of the woman, you know, and to create mankind. Alright? Adam now have his mate, which is a woman. Right? So he goes on to say, therefore shall a man leave his father and mother and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Alright? So we see, even within the traditions of the original people, we never left our mother and father. Understand? You know, but in the system that we live now, your mother and father put you out and to go and fend for yourself, whether you're prepared or not. Whatever happens to you, that's on you. But we see in the African system, the original system, you know, we developed at a high stage. We didn't develop from a low stage and go to a high stage. We developed from a high stage. So everything was in place. Everything was in place. You understand? So let's continue, you know? So we're seeing that when it comes to the creation of mankind, that's when we see these types of things starting to take place. So we got the whole impression, right? I'm going to stop there, right? We got the whole impression of engineering taking place, right? Keep in mind that Adam and Eve, they were naked, they had no idea they were naked. This is a next impression that gives that these people were engineered because they are newly arriving on the earth by way of engineering, and everything is new to them. They don't even understand that they are naked. They don't even understand the difference between good and bad. They have no knowledge. This is why the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This is why the fruit was forbidden, because it will open the eyes and make them realize what's really going on. This is why when they heard God walking in the garden, because the God is in the same garden with them, right? It's the same piece of land, the same. It shows you that it's the original beings that was conducting the science, right? In the same place where the science is conducting, right? And they're creating these beings, right? So this is why when Adam heard the footsteps of God in the garden, they run to cover themselves with the leaves. And we're going to demonstrate this as we go along. The videos that we have lined up, we're going to prove this. All what we are saying right, all what I'm saying right now, I'm going to prove it, right? I'm going to show you where it comes from, right? Yeah. The tree of knowledge and good, you can see its essence of what's the knowledge and truth that's there naturally. It's represented by a tree, right? Because when you create it, right? Because when these Europeans and all these people were created, Africans were at a high level of civilization already, mapping out the stars. Michael Gabi told you. While they were in caves, drinking blood of the conquered dead, living rats, bats, and animals, we were discovering the stars. We were mapping out the stars. You understand? So you being a being that has no idea what's going on, and just pop up in the world, and you see all these gods around you, and you look nothing like them. What do you think what you think is gonna cause? You understand? This is why our ancestors civilized all these races, so they could come to a level of understanding the balance of good and evil, right? Yeah, so they switch the whole story and everything around in the scriptures to confuse what was really taking place. Because we know the Caucasians, they take different essence of reality and put them together to make a whole different story, right? And if you know the whole foundation of what's going on, you can pick the stories apart and show what's really going on. And this is exactly what I'm doing, right? So we're gonna move on, right? We're gonna move on, but before we move on, right, we're gonna see before we get to the actual mankind and what mankind is and who mankind is or who Adam and Eve is, right? We'll have to describe the hominids, right? Because before we get to an actual human being, right, we would have to have created hominids. Right? A hominid is a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch, a Yeti, a Yeren, right? These things, that's what we call a hominid, right? Because when the black man or the black woman take their DNA and mix it up, right? Mix it up, right? Let me show you how it's done, right? Let me see if I could get this video where it's been done. Alright, just bear with me. Alright, I'll give you, remember exactly where it is. Well, you're gonna get a brief, yeah, okay. So, when we're looking at science today, right? Science is just being rediscovered. Our ancestors develop all the sciences that the Caucasians and them are secretly practicing and claim that they are the ones who brought these sciences to the table. But in all factual aspects, it was our ancient ancestors, which are the gods. The black man and black woman are the sons of gods who came down and spliced the genetics and created giants, created hominids and mankind and different animals, right? The domesticated animals also, right? And we're going to prove all this as we go along, right? So when the black woman take a genetics, right, and splice it, and we're looking at where you would have the genetics on the microscopic level, and you could blend whatever you're blending under the microscope, blend the genetics, right? And after you blend your genetics under the microscope, whatever you want to fuse together, you're going to fuse it into the egg, right? You're going to fuse this back into the egg, and then you're going to take the egg and put the egg back inside the human being or the animal being, in whichever way, whatever you're trying to get to, right? So you're going to take your micro injection, right? And you're going to inject the genetics inside the egg, like we're seeing right here, right? So whatever in the egg will actually grow together, will actually blend together, right? And fuse together. And whatever you put in there, you're gonna get the result when it grows and comes out, right? So you engineer whatever you want to engineer under the microscope, then you inject it back into the egg and put the egg back into the womb, whatever, and then you're going to get the result when it's fully grown, right? So this is how you create a hominid, right? So So when you fuse all this mix up stuff right here back into the animal or the human being, right? You're gonna get a hominin. A hominin. If it's a human being, you're gonna get a hominin close to a human being, right? You're gonna get an animal close to a human side. If you put it in an animal, if you take that thing you splice and you infuse it back in the animal, you're gonna get a creature close to an animal stage, right? So this is the two different levels of this, right? So our ancestors developed all these sciences in ancient times. This is how we actually created people. We perfect the science to such a level where we created mankind. This is what I'm actually telling you, right? But before you get to the level of mankind, you have to create hominids. Because when you take the black gene and you mix it with an animal gene, original animal gene, you're going to get a black creature, a creature that looks black, right? So if you use a monkey genetics or ape genetics, right, you're going to get a half ape, a half human being, where you're going to have, where it's going to look like a Sasquatch, right? A Sasquatch or Bigfoot, right? So this is the science behind that, right? And I'm going to show you what a Bigfoot looks like, right? Now this is a sketch from, people who came across in contact with these ancient beings, right? So these ancient beings were created in Africa, right? And we learned that there are Sasquatch in every continent or every country that is not of Africa. Like Africa have their own type of Sasquatch, the Chinese have their own type of Sasquatch, the Europeans have their own type of Sasquatch, the Indians have their own type of Sasquatch, and people in Mexico have their own type of Sasquatch, and they all call it different names. Right? Even in Russia, in all, everywhere have a different type of Bigfoot, right? So this would prove that our ancestors bred these beings in a variety, in a large variety, right? This is why we're getting many different skulls and all different type of bones and all different type of fossils, that gives us a wide range, a variety of hominid skulls and bones and stuff like this, right? So we learned that, the science started in Ethiopia, Africa, right? Like we expressed in Genesis 2, like going down to the following chapters, like we just demonstrated, right? So the reason why this creature is huge, big and tall, right? Hairy beast, right? Is because I think this was not only spliced with just ape DNA and human DNA, but also bear DNA, right? Or it might have been elephant DNA. I think that's where it gets its big mass from, the mass from, big body from, right? The hairy aspect would come from the ape aspect, because that's why it loves to hang out in trees and in the wilderness, in the forest and stuff like this, in the mountains, the lake regions, and the sea regions, right? Bigfoot, because it has multiple genetics. I also think it could have also have genetics from creatures from the sea, right? Like octopus or land creatures. Whichever creatures that have aspect of the clear hair, because it is said that the Sasquatch could be invisible at will, right? It could blend itself with its atmosphere, with its background. So whatever forest background the Sasquatch finds itself, it could blend itself and make itself or render itself visible because of the clear hair that is within all that we're seeing. So when you look in the microscope, right, you're going to see the clear hair right? But we're going to view this in a while. We're going to see all this in a while. So I'm just describing the Sasquatch to you, so I don't want to go too far down the line, right? So this is what a Sasquatch looks like, right? When the black woman or the black man take the genetics, splice it to an ape or an other genetics in there, we're going to end up with a result like this, right? We're going to end up with a result like this. So like I was saying, right? There are these creatures in every race, right? Wherever we find pyramids, we find these creatures, right? And we find the people being created from these creatures, right? People being created from the Sasquatch, right? So the Chinese Sasquatch was used to create the Chinese, right? The Indian Sasquatch was used because that's their ancestors, right? The Indian Sasquatch was used to develop the Chinese and also the European, you know, and also the tribal Africans in Africa. Because keep in mind, the science started in Africa. So if we're going to create mankind, we're going to create beings, the first beings are going to come out, they will come out black. Just like we are saying, these hominids are coming out black, right? Until we develop science to actually regress the pigmentation, right? This is why the Sasquatch is slightly different in all the different locations of the races of mankind. Like those in China are slightly different, those in India slightly different, those in all parts of the earth are slightly different. There are many variations of the Sasquatch, right? Those with red hair, the eye complexion also different. So we could see where the eye variations comes from when it comes to the creation of mankind. We could see the hair variations. When it comes to the creation of mankind, we could see the height and size variations when it comes to the creation of mankind. Like we see the Chinese. The Chinese are very short people, they have chimp height, right? So let's move on, right? So now we have a kind of sign of a Sasquatch, right? A Bigfoot, right? We're gonna show some more clarification of the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, right? To give us a more expression of what we're dealing with, right?
Associated with the Pacific Northwest, including Oregon, Washington State, and British Columbia, individuals claim to see the creature all across North America.
Give me a sec.
Bigfoot is also one of the more famous examples of cryptozoology. Cryptozoology is a pseudoscience and subculture that aims to prove the existence of entities from the folklore record, such as Bigfoot, as well as other creatures that could be labeled as monsters. Cryptozoologists refer to these entities as cryptids, a term coined by the subculture. In their hunt for these entities, cryptozoologists may sometimes employ devices such as motion-sensitive cameras, night vision, and audio recording equipment. Because it does not follow the scientific method, cryptozoology is considered a pseudoscience by the academic world. It is neither a branch of zoology nor folkloristics. Bigfoot is most often reported as having a red eye shine. Research from 1952 to 1980 suggests that there were 48 reports of glowing or shining eyes involved in alleged Bigfoot encounters. Among the eye shine reports, 24 cases were reported as red, 15 were reported as white, yellow, or unstated, 8 were reported as green, and 1 case was reported as blue.
Now we see where the variation of eye color comes from, because these creatures were used to engineer the upcoming human beings that they will be engineered from in the different locations where we find all these pyramid structures. China has pyramid structures, in Mexico has pyramid structures, in America have pyramid structures, in India. You understand? So we see the same people who deal with the engineering of building these structures are the same people that is dealing with the engineering of creating these creatures, right? On mankind, right? So this is the link, right? So we see all the different variation of eyes, right? We see where it brings in the idea of the variation of the eye color with all the different races of mankind, right? Because these creatures live in the forest, right? And we see the first people of mankind were the hunter-gatherers. And the hunter-gatherers, they lived on the land. They lived within the forest, within the trees, living on whatever forest and the trees have to offer. Just like Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were placed in the forest, in the garden, where everything was already placed there for them to live on. So they did not have to till or grow trees, because the Lord God grew the trees for them already, like we read in Genesis chapter 2. Right? So this is why we are seeing the hunter-gatherer traces, because of these Bigfoots. These Bigfoots are hunter-gatherers themselves. They hunt and live within the forest, within the wild, just like animals. So this is why we are seeing the hunter-gatherers, which are the first human beings, first mankind. This is why we are seeing they are expressing the lifestyle of hunting and gathering, and not tilling or growing anything or planting seeds or anything like that. All they are doing is just living in the forest, naked, just like the book of Genesis said, living in the forest naked with strings through the buttocks, right? And gathering leaves. It was said that Adam and Eve wore leaves to cover themselves up when they found out they were naked, when they got knowledge and realized that they were naked. They decided to cover themselves with the leaves, right? And we're going to highlight all this as we move on. So let's continue. We're not going to highlight the whole video, but we're just going to go through down a little more, and then we're going to switch it up, right?
Many animals exhibit eye shine. That is because of a mirror-like membrane called the tapetum lucidum. This membrane behind the retina reflects light back through the eye, allowing the animal to see better in the dark. Most primates do not have this mirror-like membrane.
Now let me just say the reason why, like I said before, these Bigfoots look so negroid is because they were spliced from the genetics of the original black man, right? With the original animals or genetic animals that they created also. Because after you create the animals, you could also use that animal DNA or re-engineer it, right? Because our ancestors were masters of the science, so they did a large or wide variety of creations, right? This is where we get all the different aspects of all these mythical creatures we're hearing about in stories or folklore. That's where it comes from. It comes from the creation of mankind and the animals and the plant life. You understand? So it's not racism taking place here when these Caucasians are depicting these Bigfoots in a negroid looking way, because that's how they really look. You understand? It's not racism, because the Caucasoids have no problem telling you that they come from the Bigfoot. They have no problem telling you that they come from the Neanderthal, the ape. This is what evolution is all about. Evolution is all about man coming from an ape, a monkey, and this type of stuff, right? So instead, they tell you that the original people engineered them from the monkey and the ape. They're going to tell you evolution did it. They're going to tell you nobody did it. Because evolution, all it really means is that nobody was doing the science. The science just happened on its own. Right? So this is the secret the crackers are hiding. Instead, they tell you that the black African created them by way of engineering with the animals, right? By splicing the genetics with animals to create them, right? They're going to tell you nobody did the science. They're going to say evolution. They're going to say everybody come from the ape and the monkey by way of evolution, right? So if you're going to listen to these crackers about how man was created or how the earth was formed, you're going to be upside down. You're going to be so far away from the truth that you don't even realize what's going on, right? That's what's taking place, and that's why the apes look so negroid. They were spliced from the original black man.
Alleged Bigfoot reports state that the creature emits eyeshine, is mostly nocturnal, and can maneuver very quick and stealth-like through the forest at night. Is it possible that the Bigfoot creature's eyes are equipped with this unique membrane? It is generally believed that the Bigfoot creature is an omnivore. There have been several reports by many who have witnessed the creature sustaining itself on a variety of subsistence food.
Because that's where the hunter-gatherers got the aspect from. It's from this creature right here. The hunter-gatherer aspect comes from this creature right here, Bigfoot. They are Bigfoot in every region, right? Every land. Africa. We have hunter-gatherers in Africa. We have the Pygmies. We're going to highlight them soon, right? The Dogon tribes and all the other tribes, right? That are hunter-gatherers, right? We're going to highlight them soon, right? As we go down the videos, right? So this is where the European hunter-gatherers got the aspect from, the Chinese hunter-gatherers, the Indian hunter-gatherers got the aspect from, because they all represent the creation of mankind, right? They got it from the first developed species, right? That's where they got it from. This ape right here, because he lives on the land. Whatever the land produces, that's what he lives on, right? Let's continue.
Such as tree bark, insects, frogs, fish, roots, leaves, various seasonal berries, nuts, and fruits. Bigfoot obtains most of its animal protein for consumption by hunting within the game trails. The creature keeps watch for prey by often walking through or traveling around the game trails. There are several reports of the Bigfoot creature being a very stealthy yet powerful predator. Stories have been told by witnesses who have seen the Bigfoot creature suddenly appearing out of the forest, grabbing a deer, and running off with it. In some cases, the big creature can be seen twisting the head off of a deer to near decapitation. Other accounts of Bigfoot's stealth and power involve the creature snapping off only the legs of their prey, such as wild boar or deer.
Why? Because it's expressing that human side of it, which would rather eat the animal just before it dies, right? Rather than eat it way after it dies. So it's expressing that human side of it, right? Rather than a full animalistic, which would just kill the animal and eat it right there. So we could see the animal and the human side expression of these Bigfoots, right? So that's exactly what he's saying right there.
As to keep the animal alive and immobile until the time of its consumption. The most common Bigfoot encounter in North America involves the creature being seen as it crosses the road. Most witnesses describe the creature making the trek over a 2-lane highway in only 3 steps. Most often, the witnesses state that the creature moved like a ghost, smooth and seamless across the road until it disappeared in the forest. There are many Native American tribes in North America that state, if you ever cross paths with a Bigfoot creature, do not look it in the eyes. Slowly turn around and walk away from the area. Author Wes Bateman states in his 1993 book entitled Knowledge from the Stars that if you ever meet a Bigfoot, do not harm him or her. After loudly speaking the words, have, do, me, kale, done, sock, which translates to, I witness your presence, I am friend. Slowly turn around and leave the area. There are some unorthodox theories stating that Bigfoot has the ability to raise its vibrational energy field and oscillate at a higher frequency, which in return renders the creature invisible to the human eye, similar to how UFOs raise their vibrational energy field and cloak themselves in the infrared spectrum, which is invisible to the human eye, and can only be seen in a few ways, including the use of an infrared filter lens on a camera shooting in night vision mode during the day. If this is true, would this account for why so many Bigfoot investigators in the forest often hear disembodied voices of unrecognizable language or vocabulary, and hear very loud branch snaps, yet see absolutely no sign of life within the thermal imaging scope? Some Bigfoot investigators even claim to have been touched physically by the unseen. It's been said that some Bigfoot creatures can leave a single footprint in the mud without a trackway in either direction. In some Native American stories, Bigfoot has supernatural powers and the ability to turn invisible at will.
Now, the reason why Bigfoot growls, and the reason why Bigfoot could render himself invisible, like I said, is because of the clear hairs that it has within the black hairs that grows on its body, right? These hairs are clear, and I'm going to demonstrate this, right? I'm going to show you how it works. We're going to look at a video and we're going to see how it works. Now, the reason why Bigfoot grunts is because Bigfoot is a cross between animal and human DNA. So he don't fully have the speech of a man because it's crossed, right? So this is why he grunts. He's not all the way there. So this is why he grunts, right? Because remember, the white folks showed you that the caveman could not speak. The caveman grunt until he was civilized in a way that he could speak. You understand? So we see where he got all his traits from is from the hominids, the Bigfoots, the Neanderthals, the Yetis, all these creatures there. You understand? So we're going to see how Bigfoot is able to disappear, right? He's able to camouflage himself in whichever environment that he finds himself, right? Give me a moment, right?
Investigation on it. Upon looking at the sample immediately under the microcam, I found crystal clear hairs. Crystal clear hairs are very rare to the extent that it's really only known for species that have Arctic species like polar bear. Well, unless there's a polar bear running around the swamps of South Florida, I think it's safe to say it's something we couldn't see. So we're going to take a look at those hairs right now.
So we could see where, like I said before, where Bigfoot got his mask from is from the polar bear, and he also took traits of the hair, which is clear hair, right? So this is exactly what he's telling you. One of the animals that you find with this type of hair is the polar bear, right? And Bigfoot had that same type of hair that would render himself invisible to his environment, right? So let's continue. But it goes deeper, so let's continue, right?
Now, under the microcam, we're going to conduct a few experiments using different types of color backgrounds to see how those hairs interact. Will it be further confirmation that Bigfoot can appear to be green when they're in a green bush, or brown when they're in a brown bush? Stick around, it's going to be good.
So let's skip that part, right? We don't want to hear about. Just want to get to the point. All this country and western music.
Can appear to take on the coloration of the bush around it. And that's just from the colors passing through the transition. We've been showing this, right? If you combine that with the achromatic coloration of the Sasquatch that we've documented in the description of what eyewitnesses have stated about the skin colors of the individuals that they've seen, it all starts to make sense. People have commented and said that there's no such thing as green Bigfoot. Well, no shit. They're not green. But their physical makeup, the colors of their skin, the variations in hue of the achromatic color spectrum, the gray to black color spectrum of their skin, can pick up the diffused light, and they can appear to be green. That's what we've been showing. People said, otherwise are not green. Yes, they're not. It's an aberration of color. And the hair can be the same thing. You're seeing right now. That clear hair is picking up the green leafy substance that I put on that experimentation tape.
Now we don't gotta watch all the video, right? We don't have to watch all the video, right? We get the idea, we get the expressions. Because there are many animals out in the wild that does that same thing. The lizards, the octopus in the sea, all these creatures do the same thing. They mimic the environment. They become the color of their environment, camouflage. We all understand this. So it's no big deal that the Bigfoot will have that same type of ability, because the Bigfoot was spliced with multiple animal genetics that gives Bigfoot all its abilities, right? So now we're gonna go to the final piece of evidence concerning Bigfoot, just to give us a strong idea and foundation how serious Bigfoot is. You understand? It's a real creature, a hominid, a living hominid today. So we see these creatures that was created so long ago, they still exist on the earth as we exist on the earth. You understand?
It is also stated in the belief that he has a water detector, which would explain why he's around large bodies of water.
Now, this would also explain his ability to actually mimic his environment. You understand? Because we learn that the octopus is a water creature, right? And it could also mimic its environment. So a multiple of genetics from creatures from the earth and both land could have been engineered into Bigfoot that gives it its ability to actually render itself invisible and do all the things that they say it does, right? Because when you learn the science, you guys read alchemy, when you learn the science, right, you map out the genome on that level, and you know what gene is required for what is responsible for what, you could actually create your super type human, right? And our ancestors will experimenting in all these areas, right? When it comes to that. So if I could think of this, and our ancestors are the one who developed these sciences. So if I could think of this by just taking a look at it right now, just tell yourself how much our ancestors could think, or how far the mind could go, you know, way past what we are thinking now. You understand? So it's only logical that they had the same type of mindset when it comes to all these different techniques when it comes to engineering, right? That's why we find all these skulls and all these humanoid creatures, bone fossil, nobody could explain. And crackers will always say it's aliens, right? They're going to first say it's aliens and just try and distract the whole thing, right? So let's move on.
60 kilometers east of Matheson, Ontario, up in the region there by Timmins. And I've been working in the bush for a long time. I've actually had already about 17 years experience in Western Ontario, fighting fires, /bog burning. I've also did some timber cruising. So I've been working in the bush. I consider myself experienced every type because I've seen everything. I've been to cougar, caribou, you name it. So to me, Bigfoot was just a West Coast myth. It was never anything that crossed my mind. So when we were working that day, when the event started, it was easy for me to justify what was going on in my mind. So we worked in the flood, and we aged trees in a circumference area that we had measured out. And we measured the diameter using a little tape. So we were in there for over an hour. We finished measuring up the trees. And then I went out and I did some test trees. I spray painted the test trees. I got down and I was using an acorn board to age the tree. And I was pulling up the core. And I did one. I did hear a little bit of noise coming from this direction, the way I was standing. There was a little bit of noise over there. It didn't bother me. I kept working. My partner came up. And then he took the tool, he started aging the last tree, test tree 3. At that point, then we started hearing like a rotten tree just getting ripped open. So to me, that signal there, rummaging, is eating insects, whatever. So we even took a look, and we didn't see nothing. But I did kind of get nervous because the sound was really close. I would have said maybe sounded like it was within 30 feet of us. I said, I'm gonna go get the tandem air spray. So he was like, okay. So I went back to the second block, and I just grabbed my vest, put my vest on, and I came back. I said, is it still open? He says, actually, you hear kind of walk around over here. So I'm listening there, letting him finish up. I'm listening, and you can actually hear like, something's wrong. I said, oh, it's going away. I said, nothing to worry about. So we went back to the center of the lot and measured out the distance so that we could kind of record total soil sample. And we used a auger. We got the auger down on the ground. We pulled the soil out. And then my partner's down on the ground again because I don't know how the soils the guys can throw in just a lead or I'm actually just an over it. So he's there, he's doing the soil test. And I'm standing there and I got like an aluminum clipboard and I'm taking all these notes. And all of a sudden, you know, and I look up, this huge freaking tree root just comes flying at us, eh? And so, anyways, it comes flying at us and lands on the ground and it hits the ground hard. Hard enough that I got debris, you know. I'm brushing off and my partner's standing up, like, you know, it was a big chunk of root ring shape, and it was dark and wet, so it was kind of, you could tell this thing was just ripped from the ground somewhere. So it left a lot of questions in our heads right there, like what the fuck through that, and through the canopy like that. So anyways, I was still like looking there, and then I seen another stick coming. And it was coming right at me, and I moved, you know. I kind of moved back, and this stick comes coming, I go, that's somebody that's doing that. So, and we did have another crew, but they were not near us, they were up the rocker. And we knew that, but I still yelled, I was like, Ryan! I go, but that's somebody, so I went running over there, I just freaking bush crashed because I see that trajectory, right? I bush crashed over there, and as I have, all of a sudden I see like a haystack as I'm moving through, and I stop and I go, how the hell a haystack get in here, you know? So I knocked down a few more branches and getting closer, and then I see this big, you know, 8 foot tall Sasquatch, and he's trying to hide. He's actually like this. Totally still. But you know the breeze? You can see that there. Like you know it's here, you know, wisps. Everything is moving in the breeze, right? And I look, and my legs just tighten right up. Because the first sense I got was by seeing it trying to hide was the intelligence that this creature had, and it's man. It's just an ancient man, you know.
So there you have it. He's just an ancient man, right? Ancient creature that was spliced from the original man, the ancient man. He was spliced from the original ancient man. So he looks like an ancient man and an ancient animal in one. We have the Sasquatch, right? So I'll give you a clear understanding of a Sasquatch by now, right? So we understand that Adam and Eve, right? In order to get Adam and Eve, or in order to get the creation of mankind, we must first go through the hominid. The hominid is the Bigfoot, is the Sasquatch. This is the representation of a hominid, right? These creatures still exist today. So now we are done with Sasquatch, we're going to move on to the actual Adam and Eve, the first beings on the planet. Who they consider to be the first beings on the planet? The black Africans, which are the first beings, the first hunter-gatherers, right? First mankind would be the hunter-gatherers. So now, and keep in mind, we have learned that Africa is the origin of creation of mankind, right? That's where everything started. That's where all the hominids were created first, right? When you look at science today, all fossils were found in Africa first, right? And then they started finding fossils in the outer worlds, right? So all the oldest fossils are found in Ethiopia, Africa, right? So this will indicate to us this is the origin of the science of engineering, human and animal engineering. That's where the science started. Went down into Kemet. You understand? We're going to learn all about this as we go along, right? So now we have stated that, right? The origin point, we went through Genesis. right? So the origin point, everything. Now we're going to go to the actual people that is, even today we could see them still living like this. The actual Adam and Eve. And we're going to go to the next video, right? And there we have the pygmies.
Pygmies live in dense tropical forests which lie along the Congo River in Central Africa. Forests
Congo River, Central Africa. River, remember Adam and Eve was placed in the region where they have a river, forest, garden, everything, right? If she's in Africa, right? Yeah. So the original people of mankind, the first people of mankind, is the pygmies, the Twa, right?
with towering trees that almost
The first hunter-gatherers.
equatorial sun.
These people represent the first set
Beneath these
of
trees,
hunter-gatherers.
hanging massive vines,
The Jara people,
vegetation in almost perpetual bloom. Here is found the rare night ape or bush baby, a shy creature which prowls about.
so we see all the animals, right? We see animals within the same forest that was grown for the man to be placed in, for the mankind to be placed in. So the animals were created to inhabit that same place where Adam named, right? So we're discovering all this in Africa, right? Africa, like the Bible stated. So it's actual fact.
In appearance, but a toothsome delicacy to the natives. Within the forest dwell the pygmies, a dwarf-like people, brown skinned and shy. Here is a pygmy woman starting to build a hut, which the tribe uses temporarily in its forest wanderings in search of game. The pygmies usually live out indoors, but they build shelters just before the rainy season, which is now approaching.
The pygmies live outdoors, right? So these people, right, they live within the forest, right? They are naked just like Adam and Eve was naked in the forest, right? They use leaves, just like Adam and Eve use leaves to cover up the private parts, right? And these people are living like animals in the forest. Why do I say that? Because they are balancing the animal and human state all at once, right? So these people don't farm, they don't plant any seeds. All they do is live in the forest and eat whatever the forest has to provide. That's how they live. They are hunter-gatherers, right? Adam and Eve were the first hunter-gatherers, right? They were placed in a place already set for them. You understand? So this is clearly showing us the first mankind, Adam and Eve, right?
How skillfully the hands interlace the vine framework.
And we could see how short they are, because they were spliced with the chimp. These people were spliced with chimps, monkeys. They have the size of monkeys. They're the same leaves that the Bible speaks about. They wrapping themselves in leaves when they hear God walking in the garden. They were naked. Right? These people, Adam and Eve, were naked in the garden. Adam and Eve were the first hunter-gatherers. That's why these people are in the garden naked. Because they don't know the difference between good and bad. They're just living how they were designed. Right? You're going to give these people all the nicest houses, the nicest things in the world, and it's going to be like nothing for them, because this is not the way of life. They will return to doing this. Right? Because the Europeans came in and tried to civilize them and give them, created houses for them, right? And these people just use the houses as playhouses. They never live in the house, because this is not how they were designed, right? So they went back to this, right? Because they have to play out the animal side. This is within their genetics. They live among the trees and the branches, right? They have to express the animal side. This is what that's what they are expressing.
spring has been completed, it will keep the hut interior dry under the most violent tropical rain. As a finishing...
So these people have developed, right, in their culture, their tribal culture, they have developed many sciences within there. And I mean sciences like aspects of building huts and taking care of themselves within the forest, right? Because they're fulfilling the animal nature, where we see the animals don't grow any plants, the animals don't farm, animals don't do anything, but they live on the forest. So it's the same sequence with these people, these mankind right here, the same sequence for them, because they were spliced from the same animals that have the hunter-gatherer traits. So these people will always express them same traits within the lifestyle, right? Because it's only a reality that they express it in them ways, because that's what they come from. You are what you come from. You understand? So this is why these people are naked and it don't even bother them. Whether it's snowing, whether it's winter, whether it's raining, whether it's dry, whatever season it is, these people remain like this. A string passing through the buttocks. Right? And you don't fade them, because it's designed for them to live like this. They're expressing the hunter-gatherer traits which come from Bigfoot, the Yering, the hominids. You understand? So this is the Adam and Eve. This is the first set of mankind being created before we get to a Chinese, an Indian, and a Caucasian. The people will come out black first, because it's black people that's the God that is actually creating the mankind. Right? So before we understand why our black ancestors had to create mankind, before we understand all that, we must first understand what's really going on right here, right? So don't get yourself off track.
Touch. Branches are added. These help to hold the roof of leaves in place. The house is now complete, and the family promptly moves in. In the moist heat of the tropical forest, the pygmies always keep a fire going.
So we see why Bigfoot stays in the forest and always breaks branches. Bigfoot always breaks branches and stays in the forest and gather bundles of sticks, right? This is the same aspect these people are displaying. They love to break branches and make houses and make bundles of sticks. They're expressing them same hunter-gatherer traits. It's the same thing Bigfoot does all over the world. When you look into these cases where people are explaining their encounter with Bigfoot, it's always cracking branches. You understand? So unless you don't know about these things, you really won't understand what's taking place. Right? So all what I'm talking about, you have to really know about these things to really understand what I'm saying. Nobody could dispute what I'm saying. There's nobody that could dispute what I'm saying. Because this express itself in life as an example of what's taking place. But since we are being blind, bamboozled, right? And even when we say we are conscious and awakened, we still follow the cracker way of how things are. We still follow how the cracker says the world was formed. We still follow how the cracker says who God is. We still follow how the cracker said what a rock is, or how mankind was created. We still follow everything he says concerning these things. We don't look into ourselves to find out what's really going on, right? And we say we are conscious. We say we are awakened, right? And we still follow these things, right? Why don't we follow the cracker's way of seeing who God is with the white Jesus, right? So we are awakened when it comes to that part of it. But when it comes to science now, we're playing like we go back to sleep. Right? We're playing like we go back to sleep, like we don't understand science. Right? We don't understand how mankind was created. We're just going to take what the crackers say, evolution. You understand? So that's what's taking place. You understand? So people have to really check what's going on. You understand? So let's just continue for a little while, a little moment. And we're going to go into where the science was taking place. You know, and we're going to go into Kemet and see the science, right? Because from Ethiopia going down the Nile, going into Kemet. That's how the thing go, right? So we just continue for a few more minutes or seconds.
Usually to dry themselves and also occasionally to cook their food. Securing vegetables for food is comparatively easy. This one, with baby and homemade basket, will not have far to search for materials which ages of experience have taught the pygmies are good for food. She finds here a vine of appa.
Adam and Eve, naked in the garden, living in the garden. You understand? Naked in the garden.
Its tuberous roots are somewhat like
Where do you think they get the idea from?
the appa vine
To write it in the Bible.
The digging knife and other tools the pygmies use are obtained in trade with nearby Congo tribes. Another pygmy woman is gathering the fruits of the tewe vine. They, likewise, go into the homemade basket. Thus, instead of shopping at markets or cultivating gardens, pygmen get their fruits and vegetables directly from the dense forests in which their villages are located.
So we see hunter-gatherers, they don't grow, they don't plant seeds, they just live primarily on life, on nature, right? Whether it's in the sea, whether it's in the forest, whether it's in the desert, whatever. Right? Is how hunter-gatherers grow. And they get these attributes from the Bigfoots, the Neanderthals, the primates, the hominids. They get these aspects from these creatures there, which also display the hunter-gatherer traits, right? The animalistic type of vibe, where the animals just live in nature, not planting anything, and everything has been provided for them. Like, you know, everything has been provided for them, so they just live freely and live on the land. So this is so when our ancestors spliced our genetics with animal genetics, right? That's where you find all these traits within the genetics. So you create a Bigfoot by splicing these genes. The Bigfoot will have the same traits of the animal, and you will have the traits of the human being all in one. And it will be displaying all these aspects all in one as it lives as a newly formed being, right? And when you get to the aspect of creating a human being from the Sasquatch now, right? You're going to get these people expressing the same traits, right? Of hunting and gathering, because you are what you come from, right? So when you trace your origin, that's what you are actually acting out, right? So that's what's taking place. So we're going to move on from this, right? We're going to go, before we reach to Kemet, actually, we're going to visit and see what's taking place. We're going to hear what some crackers got to say, right? About Kemet and the science, right? Now we're going to the part where the science part, right?
Mummies were buried alongside the ancient Egyptian god of death, a new study reveals. Now this study is the first to thoroughly investigate
Bring it back.
8 million dog mummies were buried along 8 million dog mummies were buried alongside the ancient Egyptian god of death, a new study reveals. Now this study is the first to thoroughly investigate the underground tomb of Anubis, the jackal-headed god, and along with the many mummified dogs that remain, other animals were found, including the fossil of an ancient sea monster over...
I'm going to pause right here, right? Before we move along, right? So as you can see, 80 million dogs mummies found, also different creatures and mummified human beings were found. Actually, it's like 70 to 80 million, but she's just referring to 8 million out of that 80 million, I guess. So we see the reason why the god of death, or Anubis, was present in the same chamber where these mummified dogs were found is to indicate that he is the one over the engineering project that was going on. This is one of the gods that was involved in one of the projects that was going on, right? In a sense, it proves that it gives the essence or the impression that the ancient Egyptians were highly aware of the science of animal engineering, human engineering, right? And we learned that these $80 million on creatures and animals, they were mummified specifically for the genetics, for the engineering, right? To preserve the genetics, so later on they could be used to engineer down that line. So that's why they were mummified. That's why the human remains were mummified. Because the same way we have today scientists in the lab, they store all the genetics in freezers, right? We see the viruses and everything are stored in heavy freezers, right? But the same thing for our ancestors. We use the mummification to preserve genetics within the body. So we wrap up a whole body and just put it in a tomb somewhere, and that would preserve the genetics within that body. So later on it could be used to splice. So that's why 18 million dogs were found mummified, because dogs was taken from animals, all different animals were taken from all around the world to bring to Kemet. So let's continue. We'll continue to explain this as we continue, right?
48 million years old. 48 million years. But now, it's not clear whether the...
She spelled a creature, right? Let me bring it back so you could...
Other animals were found, including the fossil of an ancient sea monster.
Now let me give you an idea of that sea monster, right? Because I'm going to show you that the people who run the world, they know exactly what's going on, because they're the ones who stole all the scrolls from ancient Africa and stole all the sciences, right? And hide what is really going on. So we've seen the movie Clash of the Titans, right? The sea monster. Right? Sea monster. Right? The Kraken. Now we're going to get back to this, right? We're going to get back to this. So we're going to go back to that, right? We're going to go back to that.
Over 48 million years old. 48 million years. But it's not clear whether the Egyptians knew that this fossil of the sea monster was there when they built the tomb, or whether it was there by accident. But it's a crazy number, 8 million dogs. They've not all been found. A lot of them...
Now they are not sure whether the sea monster was there. When the Egyptians built the pyramids, they're figuring out, they're trying to figure out and say that it might be an accident, or they don't know it was there. Like the ancient Egyptians don't know what's going on. You understand? So these people are just trying to cover up the engineering that was taking place. So they're going to come up with these foolish ideas, right? Just to blind the massive on what's really taking place or what's going on.
Some have since disintegrated. Some of them have been stolen by grave robbers and possibly turned into fertilizer, they're suggesting. But in terms of the holes and the remains that they found, they've estimated 8 million dogs were mummified and buried along with this god of death. Now Anubis, as I mentioned, is the one with the jackal's head. But there were other dog-like animals buried in there with him, including bulls, and also other animals that don't even look like dogs. The ibis, the long-legged bird.
Why? Because it was engineering taking place. They were engineering animals, and they were collecting specimens from all around the world, right? They were collecting specimens from all around the world and mummifying them to save them for later engineering programs. You understand? That's why so many dogs and animals were gathered into one place, and we're going to see stories of that event as we go along, right? Does that ring a bell? Right?
Birds, hawks, baboons, and various cats. And, first of all, it makes you wonder if they made such a significant thing of worshipping animals back then, and we all know how...
It's not worshipping animals. It's animal engineering. Splicing animals, wrapping them up on using the genetics later down the line to create hominids and different type of creatures, and recross them and backcross them and stomp out the animal gene and bring them back to human form. That's the science that was taking place in ancient Kemet, right? They were using the genetics of the mummies also, the human mummies. That's why they were wrapping them up, to preserve them, preserve the genetics within them, so that it wouldn't rot away and just diminish. They wrapped them up to preserve the genetics within it. Same thing they was doing for the animals, right? Because they were using the DNA of the human beings with the DNA of the animals. So people went all through the world, all through the world, right? Throughout the world, bringing in specimens, different types of animals to be spliced with, to get different outcomes, to get different traits, to get different abilities that we were discussing about Sasquatch a while ago. You understand? So that's why there are a wide range of variety of different animals were used, gathered onto one place, so we get the idea of Noah and the Ark. Does that ring a bell? So we're going to highlight that as we go along, right?
How advanced the Egyptians were. Why did it stop? Why did we stop worshipping animals like this?
I think some will argue that we haven't. If you go to Beverly Hills or some high-end city in the States, you'll see all these ladies with their dogs like they're treating them better than kids. But coming back to the story, it's important.
It's not that they're treating them better than kids. They're sending out the message. You're showing the science that was taking place with animal and humans. Animal and human engineering that was taking place. That's why the animals were highly revered. That's why you're seeing humans attached to animals as a one being, because that's the science that was taking place. So you tell me if all these human and animal attributes in one figure, you mean to tell me the people don't have the idea of engineering, putting genetics of an animal and a human being together? You tell me they don't have any idea of this science? When they're drawing on the walls, that same thing? You understand?
Important to know that for the Egyptians back at that time, it was very, very important, this animal cult, because it defined them as a nation. When the Syrians and the Persians were trying to invade them,
these crackers have no idea what they're saying.
Cults was very, very important because they were the only culture that had animal cults. So it makes sense that this was so widespread, because it was not only an issue of religion, it was also an issue of
they have no idea what they're saying.
Very Egyptian.
It's only the elites.
Have animals.
A few people that know what's going on.
Yes, and just so many of them.
But
just
these
really,
people are just playing
tells us a
around
lot
with
about
evidence.
this culture, and they've actually, the
They're making a mess
archaeologists
out of
now
it.
believing that these mummified dogs were used as a huge part of the economy in Egypt. So literally as something to trade.
The economy, trade you're talking about is people going out all over the world gathering different types of species of animals to bring them back to Kemet, right? So this genetical program could be brought to different levels. They needed specimens from all different regions to bring whatever outcome that they were working on. That's what was taking place. You understand? It's not no religion or worship thing that was going on there. They're plainly describing this to you, right? So one thing I realized about Caucasians, when it comes to Bible stories, right? They will take different aspects of different events that happen in one region and they'll put it together, right? And mix it up and put it in their own way for whatever reason that they want or whatever message they want to send. And they're going to make a story out of it, right? And the only way you could dissect it is if you know the foundation of all what's going on. So it's the same thing that they did with Noah and the Ark story, right? It took the aspect of these 70 or 80 million different species of animal being taken from all around the world, to be brought onto one point, which is Kemet, right? And we know the boat aspect of Noah and the Ark comes from Kemet also. Asher Cressy displayed it. We're going to go to the video soon. So we see, and we know the aspect of the flood now also takes place in Kemet. So we could clearly see where they took these 3 different events that happened in Kemet and put it together to make up a story, Noah and the Ark, and the end of the world and all this type of thing, right? So we're going to highlight we're going to highlight Noah and the Ark for a short couple of seconds, right? Let's just highlight Noah and the Ark, give you a visual aspect. Alright?
And Noah went in, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him into the ark, because of the waters of the flood, of clean beasts and of beasts that are not clean, and of fowls and of everything that creepeth upon the earth. There went in 2 and 2 unto Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days,
so the Lord
the
God
waters of the flood
commanded all men to go out
in the
and
600th year of Noah's
to collect
life.
all creatures all over the world to be brought onto the ark. So the Lord God commanded Noah, alright, to gather all the animals of the earth and bring them to the ark. Right? So it's the same thing. If Kemet, all the different animals are gathered from all around to be brought on to Kemet at one point, at one place where they were mummified. And they found the evidence of all these millions of animal specimens that were found. The evidence is there. Right? So that's where they get the aspect of all the animals gathering onto one place. Right? There's no denying it. There's no denying it. Right? And we move on to Asher now, where he's describing Noah and the ark, the boat. Right? Where they get the boat aspect from, right?
Understand, why is that boat there? That boat was a spiritual, symbolic boat to symbolically to take Khufu back to the celestial now. What was the purpose of the celestial now? What you see behind me is not a spaceship. It landed and happened it didn't make it back. Okay. What you see right there is the boat of Khufu. That is his solar boat. This boat is 140 feet long, longer than Captain Cook's boat. When this boat was excavated in 1954 in a pit, over 1,200 pieces, the boat was dismantled. And they reconstructed, took 1,200 pieces to reconstruct this boat of Khufu. Now, what was the purpose of this boat? This boat was called the Nuang. What is the Nuang? What was the Nuang? The flooding of the Nile was called the Nuang. Now, when the Nile flooded, it was Khufu who realized that he could take his solar astral journey through the Nile to the celestial Nile, that was the Milky Way, to take him back to his father.
So we see now the physical Nile is also symbolic into the celestial Nile, right? They represent each other, they mimic each other, right? So this is why I'm saying even the Giza Plateau where you find the pyramids, right? It also represents Mars. That is alongside the Milky Galaxy, the Milky Galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, right? So Mars represents Kemet, Egypt. Mars is a desert-like area. Mars has faces, structure like faces. Mars has pyramids. So Mars is a perfect representation of ancient Kemet, right? The star Sirius is Ethiopia, where everything comes from. The Dogon said they came from the star Sirius, right? So we're learning that the geographical location on Earth represents our Milky Way galaxy, right? So jumping from one land to another land, that means you're going from planet to planet within the Milky Way galaxy, right? So this is how the Dogons were able to map out the star Sirius. by traveling the land literally. They come from Ethiopia. Right? The Dogons come from Ethiopia. The Dogons are also hunter-gatherers. And where did the first mankind come from? Where did the first mankind was created? In Ethiopia, where all the science started. This is where all the science started. The Dogon said that these beings from Sirius came down. That's their gods. That's the one that created them. And we're learning how to map out the stars. How to map out the stars, you gotta follow the learned pattern that you're living on. So Ethiopia would be the star Sirius, where the Dogons are from, where where the whole science started, just like I showed you in Genesis. So we see how the Milky Way galaxy is a perfect exchange or a perfect replica of the Earth. So jumping from land to land, that means you're jumping from planet to planet. You're traveling in space. You're actually traveling in space when you're traveling on the Earth, on the land. Right? It mimics the Milky Way galaxy where the planets are placed. Right? So if you know where Ethiopia is on the land, right, it's a perfect example where the star Sirius is going to be. Right? So that's how the Dogons were able to map out the stars without looking to the skies with telescopes. You understand? That's why the Europeans are marveling, because they don't know. I'm the only one that will tell you this. There's no one saying this. I haven't heard anyone say this as far as I'm going with it. So if you're hearing this for the first time, it's really the first time you're hearing it, or really the first time it's being said, because I personally haven't heard anybody say it in the way that I'm saying it right now. So that's how the Dogons knew. So just like Asher Tracy is telling you, the celestial Nile is example of the literal Nile that is on Earth, right? It's the same thing like what's his name? Dr. Delbert Blair told you that Kemet is Mars. So it goes for every other region in Africa. It represents the other region in space. It's just simple like that. You understand? Let's continue.
So the Milky Way was looked at as the celestial now, like the earthly now. So it was the new boat that took him back. That was the purpose of his boat. That later it was corrupted into Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark was taken from the new ark. This is where it came from.
That's where it came from, folks. Oh, my blessed people, because there are different types of people out there. You understand? So that's where it was taken from. The aspect of the boat was taken from Kemet. The aspect of the flooding of the Nile was taken from Kemet. And the aspect of gathering all the animals from all of the world was taken from Kemet, because all the animals was taken from Kemet to be mummified as specimens for the engineering program that was taking place in Kemet, where they were creating mankind. You see how it goes?
Nowhere are you going to find no Noah's Ark. If you were back at the time of 4,000 years ago, or during the time of Khufu, and you asked him about Noah, what's wrong with you? I don't know nothing about no Noah. You see my boat here? This is where the story came from. The flood, the great flood.
So we have a clear understanding on this right now, right? Clear understanding. How they take different aspects of events and put them together to formulate one thing, right? Where everything happens separately, right? In reality. But they will combine it together to give a story for whatever reason, right? So we see when you read the Bible of Noah and the Ark where it comes from. Even the aspect of, let me go to the pic, right? Let me see if I can get this pic. Internet moving a little slow, right? The aspect, before I get to this, right? Just give me a sec. On this one, let me see. It might be this one, right? Wow, it's taking a while. All right, so here we have it, right? So even the aspect of the Tower of Babel, right? The Tower of Babel is also an aspect of human engineering, right? So see how they take that story, right? They tell you the Tower of Babel, where all these people working to create a monument, a tower that will reach up to the sky, to God, right? And they reached so far that God saw that these beings will reach up to him, so he's going to cause them to be confused and give them, so he's going to give them different languages to cause them to not understand one another, and they will stop the project, right? So we see how the crackers corrupt our ancient legacy and ancient ancient event that took place when it comes to the pyramids. You can see how they switch up the story, because the people that was building the pyramids are the black Africans, and they are the gods, right? And so we see the people who build the pyramids are the gods, and they're the one who created these people. So they're going to change the story around. They're going to say these people build this, and they want to reach up to God, so God confused them and give them different languages. You see how they switch up the story? But in reality, the story is what they are, this structure they are mimicking there, right? That's the pyramids, right? That's the Tower of Babel they're telling you about. They're trying to corrupt the pyramids, right? So the people who build the pyramids are the ones who created these mankind and gave them different languages and different places to stay. So that's the actual truth. But they're going to corrupt it, right? They're going to corrupt it and tell you that everybody was one and they were so great, they were building a structure and they reached up to God, and God confused them and gave them different languages, right? So we could see where they are highlighting the pyramid. We could see where they are highlighting God, which is the one who built the pyramid, which is the black African man and woman, right? We see where they're corrupting all that, because remember they see this structure is going up to God, so we could see where this structure and God is linked. So God is the one creating this structure, right? And he's the one who created all these different mankind and gave them the different language and give them the place to stay. That's why we have the different tribes again. The tribal people, the hunter-gatherers are different tribes, right? Give them the language. They couldn't speak, so they had to be taught how to speak, right? So we could see how they transform these different events into one story and give us a story of the Tower of Babel, right? Just to corrupt the truth of what really took place, right? So we have to be careful with these Europeans. We have to be careful with these Europeans when we are taking what we are taking from them. When we are taking information from them, because they're going to take different aspects from different areas and put it as one, and they're going to confuse you, right? So they're really trying to corrupt the pyramid, because the black African man and woman represent God, represent the Creator, and they're the ones who built the pyramids, and they're the ones who created mankind, because everywhere you see pyramids throughout the earth, you find mankind. You find pyramids in China, you find the Chinese. You find pyramids in Mexico, you find the Mexicans and the Aboriginal people, right? You find pyramids in India and all these places, all these in the Americas also, you find pyramids. You understand? So we have people all over the world, right, with different languages, right, which were created by the gods who created the pyramids. That points up to the sky, right? That points up to the sky. So we see why they give us a story and tell us they were building a monument that reached up to the sky, and that would reach up to God, and God would later then confuse them and give them different languages so they could stop building this great monument. So you see how they corrupt the story? So if you don't have somebody like me to come in and show you what's going on, you will never really realize what's taking place until another brother come and show the same stuff, right? So we're going to go back to, now we have finished demonstrating that, right? We're going to go back to the Clash of the Titans, right? We're going to go back to the Clash of the Titans. The sea monster that they found at the bottom of the pyramids, along with all the mummified animals and human remains. The mummified human remains. Alright, they found a sea monster and other creatures that look like dogs and look like other creatures. So it clearly showing that. So we see these winged creatures there, right? These the winged creatures we just saw a while ago, right? Let me see if I can pull it back up, right? These winged creatures, right? When you look up the Council of Ephesus, Council of Chalcedon, right? And these depictions come up, right? We're going to see these type of winged creatures alongside the council members. We're going to see these type of winged creatures on the shoulders of the council members that they are displaying in the Council of Ephesus, in the Council of Chalcedon. Right? We're going to see these winged creatures there. So it is indicating that everybody was clear of the type of humanoid creatures that existed on the earth while man is existing on the earth at the same time. This is why when we're watching this movie right now, this movie has been designed like it's like in the ancient time, where you have the sea monsters and all different creatures and all different things taking place. We have the horse with the wing, where we see it's an engineering creature, right? What have wings? Bird have wings. So you engineer for bird, for horse, you get a horse with wings. Because you take the genetics that is responsible for the wing growing in a bird, and you infuse it with a horse, and then you have a horse with wings. It's simple math, simple shit. You understand? Nobody could dispute what I'm saying, right? So let's go further. Sea monster. Here's the sea monster coming for the lady. So we see she represents the original woman. Right? Sea monster is coming back to the origin, where it comes from, because human genetics and all creatures that are engineered, they have human genetics. That's what gives them the intelligence, right? To think on a level as a human and being a beast at the same time, right? So here they are displaying how the sea monster was actually destroyed or killed on, they found it as a fossil, because the sea monster was a fossil. The sea monster that they found is a fossil. just like the mummified remains, right? They are preserved, right? So the sea monster was also preserved as a fossil, right? And we have Medusa, which also represents the black woman with the locks, right? We see there is a science in changing things into stone, because when you look into Medusa's eye, you turn into stone. So this clearly shows us our African ancestors had a way of science of creating stone or turning things into stone. And we learn stones, things that are turned into stones, they call it fossils. Things that are turned into stones, we call it fossils. So this would further explain why we are seeing giant rocks in shapes of creatures, animals, on faces of man also. Because they will turn into stone. It's not volcanic rock or volcanic formations. It's things that has been turned into stones. Because they're clearly expressing in this movie right here, right? Our ancient goddess Isis, Set, the goddess with the locks, right? That has the power to splice the genetics and create beings, right? Right? They actually showing that Jane Isis took her genetics and spliced it with the original animal and created Harmonies, which is a creature, and created the Searing and Yearing. The Yearing is the half man, half ape. The Searing is a half fish, half human. So there we have our sea monster. Engineered creatures in the sea also. This is why they found a sea monster at the bottom of the pyramid also as a fossil, fossilized amongst the mummified dogs and creatures that they found. You understand the science and what's really taking place? Right? Our ancestors clearly had a science to turn things into stone. Right? And before I get to this, right, I want to explain about Isis. Right? Isis, remember Isis? Let me further show you some more indication of human engineering, right? Before we break this thing down some more. Right? Isis turned herself into a bird, and she placed herself on Osiris' phallic symbol, his dick, right? Isis formed herself into a bird and placed herself on Osiris' mummified body. Keep in mind, Osiris was mummified, right? He was mummified, right? So we see the genetics of Osiris and genetics of Isis, who have turned herself into a bird. What you're going to get when the two of them mix? What we're going to get? We're going to get Horus. We're going to get Horus if a half bird, half human, right? That's what we're going to get. Because Isis turned herself into a bird and placed herself on the phallus of Osiris, and they gave birth, and she gave birth to Horus, which has a bird head. Horus with the bird head. So this is what, so they are displaying human and animal engineering. They're literally showing you the genetics of an animal fused with the genetics of a man. And what you're going to get? You're going to get half bird, half man. A man with a bird head. They're clearly showing you the results. Right? They're clearly showing you the results. When Isis transforms herself into a bird, the animal genetics of a bird goes with the human, the man genetics, the man, you know. When it make up one, Isis is going to give birth to Horus, which is half man, half bird. So you get it now, right? There's no disputing this. So these hieroglyphics go way more than what our scholars are showing us. It goes way more deeper than what our scholars are showing us. It's engineering science is displayed all over the Kemetic walls. That's the science that was taking place in the day. Right? To create mankind. Right? Even when it comes to and this is what we call the Immaculate Conception. This is what we call the virgin birth. Right? Because no seed is being used, no sperm is being used. Remember, Isis transformed into a bird. So you must draw the aspect, the essence of what they're telling you. So we have the aspect of the man, aspect of the animal. So the code of the man, the code of the animal makes up what? Horus, a figure with bird and man attributes. Total engineering. So this is the virgin birth without man and woman actually coming together and being impregnated. So when when Mary got impregnated, and Joseph didn't do it, but the Spirit of the Holy Ghost, the Spirit of God, came into Mary and got her impregnated, right? Without a dick, right? This is what they are mimicking. This is what they are referencing. This is what the Europeans, the crackers, are referencing. The Immaculate Conception, the virgin birth, human and animal engineering, creating beings. Not from the original way of man and woman coming together, right? Creating man and woman, not from the original way, but way of human engineering, gene splicing. This is the concept of the virgin birth or Immaculate Conception on a whole different level. So what they're teaching us is way beyond that. I'm not brushing it on a side. I'm just saying it's all that. It goes in deeper, right? So I'm not brushing the religious aspect of it away. I'm saying it goes beyond that, right? And even what our scholars are breaking down, it goes beyond that. You understand? Just like we have the sons of God coming down, right? The daughters of God coming down and creating giants. Is human engineering taking place. I showed you about Noah and the ark. Human engineering taking place. The animals being gathered to replenish back the earth. Right? The man and them, Noah and the ark Noah preserving himself within the ark to later down replenish the earth is human engineering. Mummified human beings were found alongside the mummified animals. This is Noah and the ark, right? This is the same mummified animals and mummified human beings that is going to be used to engineer new beings, mankind. This is what we found in Kemet. And this is what we are finding in the Bible. Noah with the animals encased themselves in the ark. And they preserved themselves there until the flood was wiped away so they could replenish back the earth. So we see the signs, we see how the Europeans change it around. You understand? Right? Right? Let's continue. So we see our ancestors had a way of turning things into stone, right? Turning creatures into stone. This will further indicate why we see all these rocks formations with human faces and animal structures. Animal structure like, rock formation all over the world. This is where the concept of dinosaurs come from, because these rocks are really fossils. Rocks are fossils. Things turn into stone. You understand? That's exactly what they're displaying in this movie. Right? And we had science's ways to turn things into stone. Right? So the goddess Medusa the goddess, the black woman goddess, the locks, ancient, you know, they're the ones who developed these sciences. It's indicating this is from an ancient time. It's from these type of people, right? Right? So we clearly see the monster turn into stone, right? So let's go to Infudishi, right? He's going to describe to us how the black Egyptians, could make stone, how they develop stone. Granite specifically.
We knew how to make stone. Every stone that exists on the planet, the ancient Kemetu knew how to make.
You see? Every stone on the planet, the ancient Africans knew how to make. So things could be turned into stone. Literal beings could be turned into stone. Right? So it's not volcanic rock or volcanic reactions or whatever that creates these megalith stone structures that we see that represent animals and human beings. Right? It has nothing to do with volcanic rock or lava. You understand? We have to get our science straight. You understand? We have to stop learning things from the Europeans and go deep into our African system and see what's there. We have to say what truth is. The black African man and woman that is God have to declare what the real truth is, not these crackers. So when you come in with cracker information and telling me how the world was created and how rock was formed, I'm not going to listen. You understand? Because I'm the one deciding what it is.
And so the granite stones you see on the pyramid was made. So you never saw a picture of a brother carrying a 20-ton stone up a hill. All those are pictures the Egyptologists drew with slaves and stuff. No, the brothers, you know how you pour cement? The brothers made the stone, and when they hardened with rock, you couldn't tell the difference from the natural ones.
Exactly. You couldn't tell the difference between the natural ones and the stone that they created. So they could also turn a human being into stone. Things can be turned into stone through a natural process of fossilization, or the Egyptian actually did it. They didn't have to wait for any fossilization for a period of time. They actually created the stones, all different stones and structures. Right? That's why we are seeing all these rock formations which resembles ancient civilizations and creatures and people, right? That has turned into stone, right? Just like we see in Clash of the Titans, Medusa, whoever looks into Medusa's eyes turn into stone. It could be an animal, it could be a human being, anything that's alive that looks into the eyes of Medusa will turn into stone. Medusa represents the ancient African people, ancient African queen that had the signs of this type of things. You understand? That's what Medusa represents.
And I got scientific proof to back it up.
Yes, we have scientific proof to back it up. You understand? So we're going to move forward, right? So without any shadow of a doubt, I'm clearly proving and showing to you, you know, the engineering, the level of engineering that was being taken place on planet Earth by the ancient Africans that are the originators of the Earth.
Just statements. That is a.
Now this is Roger. So Roger is gonna.
So they are not.
Let me just pause for a moment.
That is Mineral Creek. It is not. Not granite. I mean, it's not basalt, volcanic basalt at all. That is a bunch of statements.
Now this is Roger. Now Roger is going to further prove to you that granite is not original rock. It was created. It has no metals, right? Roger is going to prove this to you. So let's continue, right?
Statement.
Roger.
That is a Olmec half a head, which was being molded, so they are not carved. That is mineralcrete. It is not granite. I mean, it is not basalt, volcanic basalt at all. That is granite. And granite.
It's not volcanic basalt. It's not volcanic rock. It's not volcanic lava. It's not volcanic nothing. Listen, this was created. So when we listen to crackers telling us the earth was from out of volcanic rock, right? You need earth for a volcano to exist. For a volcano to exist and spew out lava, you need earth first. Earth first got to exist. Dirt and all elements of dirt have to first exist for a volcano to even exist. So how then a volcano could create earth? Right?
Is not a natural stone. Granite is a process stone, which you're looking at right there. Now, that is the handprint of a giant, and it is exactly this. I did the same thing myself. I made
a handprint of a giant in the half-form head of an Olmec head, and you could actually see the fingerprints, right, that goes into the molded substance that will later on become a hard granite rock or hard granite Olmec head rock. You understand? So this is what he's expressing there to you, right?
Made them myself, so you know, it's nothing there to say.
So the people who were building this structure, right, the Olmec heads, they were giants also, right? They were giants also.
I have a video on this, and that is exactly the handprint of a hand that would be about 5 feet tall. These giants were huge. The Olmecs were very, very large, and the heads were not giant. Those heads were made for toy soldiers, and the heads show you know, armor and so forth. They show warriors, and I believe these were God's warriors that were here on earth, and they had the battles in heaven, and they were just about the right size. They were about, I would say, maybe 90 feet-ish tall, and Adam was 90 feet tall according to Muhammad. He said he went to heaven, he met Adam, he said he was 90 feet tall.
The battle in heaven, where is heaven? Africa, where all the signs started, right? Where all the signs started. Talking about the battle in heaven. Right? These beings were giants. Right?
And we will all enter heaven at 90 feet tall. So, that's all I can tell you. That's what I'm saying. All right, this is supposed to be granite, a natural stone. This is none of those things. This is crushed, processed stone, and that is the only piece of metal that I could find in about 30 feet of counter space that are in my house, and they run all over. It's got all these little black inclusions, and it's got all the little red. That's the black is the vein blood that goes in little tiny chunks. The red is more of a fluidish stuff because it doesn't hard.
The reason why he's saying blood is because he's looking at it from an aspect of the earth being a literal, being made out of a literal physiognomy of human man, I should say, and animals. What nature comes with the original man and the original animals. So the earth is made out of this. So when you're looking at the biology of the earth, and you examine it, you're going to get the same expressions as when you examine a man. This is why our ancestors depicted the earth as Geb and Nut, as the sky. It all has to do with man and woman as the primary example of nature, what nature really is. Earth is nature, right?
Not like the chunks in the vein.
So he's showing you that he's looking at the granite under the microscope, and you can see it's all chunked up. It's all chunked up, and this would further conclude that it was actually compressed together to create this rock. You can see where all the different chunks was actually compressed together when you're looking under the microscope. You could actually see how it was placed together, right? That's what he's expressing to you.
and there is no metals except that one little tiny piece that I could find. And these are big chunks of granules. These are bones. These are connective tissues, the white, the red, and the black is the ferrous oxides. And all of the metals are going from there after it's been processed. And that's why it's crushed up and it's 100% homogeneous. It looks like it's continuously homogeneous. The granules are very large and it's spaced. That is not natural. It's leftovers from the metal mine. All right, here's a counter, a little bit bigger shot. You see these little black spots? Those are the veins, blood all ground up, and just little spots and bits and pieces here and there. The red is the ferrous oxide of the O2 or O3 variety, which is the oxygenated, is always a little more filmy, and the kaolin clays are in there. And the rest is bone minerals and connective tissues. The white stuff is the limestone. Has nothing to do with a volcano at all. This is no way that...
It has nothing to do with volcanoes. You understand? It has nothing to do with volcanoes. You understand? So we must get this straight.
This happened to volcano. And there's no metals. That's the key. There's no metals.
No metals.
Natural stone is metals. That's all I can tell you.
All natural stones are metals, but granite has no metals. Because granite was created by the black Africans, just like we create concrete today. Right? Mfudishi just said it. You understand? Right? So without any shadow of a doubt, I've surely proven to you, right, the creation of mankind. And where mankind comes from, and who created mankind, and how mankind was created, right? Mankind was created by way of engineering, where the black African genetics was engineered with animal genetics to create mankind, right? Yeah. And we see remnants of this throughout the world, right? Because we have people in Africa, people in different parts of the earth where they grow horns, right? Out of their head, right? This will further indicate to us that the reason why they're growing horns in the head is because of the genetics that within them. They have animal genetics within them that has horns. The animal genetics that's within them, that animal carries horns. So this is why these people are carrying horns. There are people in Ethiopia also that grow horns out of their head, because this is where the science started. That's where the science started. So you can see the same methods that they applied in Ethiopia, they applied these same methods throughout the world, where they went creating these people, because Chinese are from China. Chinese don't know themselves to be from anywhere else but China, right? Because that's where we created them, right? Same goes for every other race, right? This is why we find the hunter-gatherers that are black in Ethiopia, right? Secluded in the locations or the islands, right?
8 people with horns. Number 1, the Unicorn Lady. A Chinese woman named Ling Chai Zhen has been dubbed the Unicorn Lady. According to her son Wang, she began complaining of a mole-like growth on the top of her head. Since it was itchy, they used traditional Chinese medicines to treat the itching. Soon, a tiny horn erupted from the mole. In 2015, she accidentally broke the horn.
All right, so she accidentally broke the horn, right? And after the horn was broken, when it grew even bigger, right? So we see this is an animal engineering effect passed down to generation, because we know this genetics could be passed down from generation to generation, and it will pop out in somebody, right, when the opportunity shows itself. So as we could see, these people are suffering with this genetic code that's within them because they were engineered, they were splites, right? They were splites. So this is the remnants of them. They are still showing results of this engineered science that took place long ago, right? It's the same thing they're showing us in the movies, right? It's the same thing they're showing us in the movies. They're showing us this all the time, making millions of dollars of the science, you know, that is actually taking place amongst us. And we have no idea where these people are getting these ideas from, right? When they're expressing these movies, right? It's human engineering, and they're expressing this all over, right? Here we have Hellboy. Hellboy, right, is actually breaking off his horns. Let me try and bring it back. Let me try and bring it back a little more. Right? Hellboy. Hellboy is an engineered species. There you go, breaks off his horn. So this woman actually breaks off her horn accidentally. So we can see none of them likes the horn. Hellboy don't like his horn. He keep breaking it off and fighting it off, right? And this woman also don't like the horn, right? So we learn that Hellboy now was created by a female human and a demon in the underworld, right? But this demon in the underworld, when Hellboy was born, what was actually manifested, he came out looking like a monkey-looking humanoid. So Hellboy is spliced between a monkey and a human. That's why Hellboy have a tail, and he looks like a monkey or ape. And it also goes further to show that he has horns. So he also has DNA from a goat or a creature that carries horns like this. So he's spliced with multiple genetics, right? So if you know the movie of Hellboy, the story goes, a female woman has sex with a demon and creates Hellboy in the underworld. And when the crackers open up a portal, the first thing that jumps out is Hellboy. So he's trying to come back to the world that, you know, he's trying to combine the two worlds together. So, you understand? So, I'm showing you it's all engineering taking place. Right? Human genetics, animal genetics, because Hellboy came out looking like a monkey. So whatever demon that's in on the world is in the figure of an ape or a monkey, because Hellboy carries its traits. Right? So it's all human engineering taking place, right, in these movies that they're showing us, right?
In its place is now an even bigger horn, 5 inches long. Some doctors believe that it could be a keratinous skin tumor that resembles a horn. They believe that surgery is her only option. Number 2, the man who grew a horn on the back of his head. A man named Wang Yonfan from Taiwan in southern China has a strange horn growing on the back of his head. It started off as a very small bump and then continued to grow into a horn. He did everything that he could to get rid of the horn, including picking at it and filing it down. No matter what he tried, the horn continued to grow. It is now 3 inches long.
No matter what Hellboy tries, his horn continues to grow. Right? So we see where these people are getting these aspects from. Right? You see where they are getting these aspects from? keep breaking it off. Right? He keep breaking it off. No matter what he try. Right? No matter what he tries, the horn keeps growing back. No matter what he tries, the horn keeps growing back. Right? And he keeps breaking it off. Right? He keeps breaking it off. Right? So we can see where these people are getting the aspects from.
And shows no sign of stopping. The doctors believe that if they remove it, it will just come back. He has stated that he tries to hide the horn with a hat. If it grows anymore, it will pop out of his hat. Number 3, the Chinese grandmother with the evil horn. A 101-year-old grandmother has a 6-inch horn growing out of the left side of her forehead, and there might be another one growing on the other side. The woman, Zhang Raifeng from Linlu Village in China's Henan province, first noticed a small growth in 2009. At first.
Alright, so I'm going to end this video on that note, and stay tuned for chapter 2, part 1. No, part 2, this is part 1. So stay tuned for part 2. You understand? So we give thanks, you know, without any shadow of a doubt, right? Provided you with enough clues and evidence, right? And now we are at the end of the video, right? You could see the picture that I've made up with all these clues and ideas that we run through, right? All the videos and all the scripture reading, all the aspects we put together, we formulated a picture, and now we have a clear aspect of what the creation of mankind is all about, right? From Genesis, right? Even when it comes to Jacob and Esau, right? Even when it comes to Jacob and Esau, we see Jacob and Esau being born of black. One come out white, one come out black, right? So we've seen where the black gave birth to the white, right? It's all engineering, right? So we see how black come first, and later on black creates the white, which is mankind. So they're clearly showing us human engineering. And even when it comes to the tribes, the 12 tribes, right? It has to do with the hunter-gatherer tribes, right? Yeah, that's where they get the aspect of the tribes from the hunter-gatherer tribe, right? So on our second video, we'll go deeper into it, right? And explain all the loose ends, right? And we even go further, right? So yes, so this is the creation of mankind, you know. I am Lord Sage. Sage of the seventh path, Lord of the perfect black. I am here to give thanks, you know, black again. Jah Rastafari.